Today on the Fast Lane Car, we are putting Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system to the test using our new TFL all-wheel drive slip test. So we recently did a video with our 2018 Subaru Outback where we took it off-road and into an articulated section where the vehicle was at a loss for traction. We got a lot of comments about how it performed and about Subaru's all-wheel drive system, and we wanted to try it out in a more controlled setting, which is why we brought our Outback back here to the TFL studios, and we're going to try our new TFL slip test. Now this is an all-wheel drive system test that forces the vehicle into precarious traction situations and sees how the all-wheel drive and the brake distribution system works. We'll get into that in a sec. Our goal of this new procedure is test how various all-wheel drive systems cope with little or no traction situations. And this is our testing equipment, and it's pretty simple. This is a length of an assembly line roller system. So we've cut it into thirds. We have 3 sections of these, and within each section we have a number of rollers with 2 removed. So essentially the vehicle is going to fall into this pit here and have no traction in between these rollers. What this simulates essentially is a patch of ice, or like we did when we were off-road, a portion where certain wheels are off the ground and certain wheels have traction. And we can dictate which wheels have traction by simply taking the portion of rollers and moving them to different corners on the vehicle. Now to see if our system works, we're going to do a little bit of a test run using this, a 1971 Volkswagen Beetle. This car has the simplest of drive systems. Rear wheel drive, no differential locks, no limited slip differentials, and no traction control. So this will be a good basis to see if a rollers slip and if you can get the wheel spinning. This Volkswagen Beetle has an open differential, as most vehicles do, and that's an important piece of tech. That means this car can travel around roads and go around turns without binding or crabbing. Essentially what an open differential does is allow the drive wheels to spin at variable speeds when you're going around a corner. You see, the outside wheels on a corner travel a lot farther than the inside wheels, and if they were locked in unison, it would create all sorts of crabbing and binding in the drivetrain. Now what that also means is, if one set of wheels, such as this left one here, comes to a part of road or terrain with little traction, such as this roller, the power and torque is going to go the path of least resistance, which in this case is this wheel that's just going to spin and spin and spin. Now this one that's got plenty of traction is essentially just going to sit here and do nothing at all. So the car's running. Now if I go ahead and put it in gear, what about reverse? Yeah, I'm stuck in reverse too. But that's pretty realistic to what would happen if you were on a patch of ice in the wintertime. You've got one wheel with traction, the other one without, and just trying to drive along, you're gonna get stuck. Subaru likes to tout their symmetrical all-wheel drive as a better system compared to a traditional all-wheel drive system. Now in most crossovers, what you'll find is it's front-wheel drive bias, and then if the front wheels slip, it'll send power to the rear to get you over whatever's slipping up the front wheels. Now Subaru claims symmetrical all-wheel drive sends power to all the wheels simultaneously for maximum traction and acceleration. So what that means is that according to Subaru, all the wheels are getting at least some amount of power and torque all the time, which means that if I stick the front wheels of this Subaru up onto the roller, simulating a complete loss of traction in the front, the rear wheels should be engaged and we should just drive on down. Let's see if that actually happens. Both front wheels are at a loss for traction. You can see even by turning this roller with my wimpy little hand, I can actually turn that wheel. Same thing over here. We are settled in the crevice. So now I'm just simply going to get in, take my foot off the brake, and the vehicle should just pull itself down if the rear wheels are in fact getting power and torque as described. Okay, test number 1 here. The vehicle isn't set up in any special setting. I'm in neutral. Gonna put it into drive now and just slowly take my foot off the brake. Now a little bit of throttle. And there we go. So as you can see, the vehicle just pulled itself off, no problem. There was no major delay. It just simply drove off these rollers. Now our next test is going to be a little bit tricky. What we're going to do is we're going to put one roller on the left front wheel, one roller on the rear right wheel. What this essentially simulates is a loss of traction in two corners, or as it may be if you're off-road, an articulated section where two corners are off the ground, as we experienced at Gold Mine Hill. So what's going to happen essentially here is if we had completely open differentials with no traction control, those two sets of wheels would just spin and spin and spin, and you'd be stuck just like we were in the Beetle. But what should happen here is Subaru is going to use a brake lock control to essentially brake the spinning wheel and send power to the two wheels with traction pulling me off the rollers, or at least that's how it should work. In this test, we have a simulated loss of traction in the front left and the rear right wheel. Drive onto our rollers here. Put it into neutral. Let it settle. And I'm running everything on. All traction and stability control systems are engaged. So, letting my foot off the brake. And applying a little bit of throttle. Okay, there's some spinning. Traction control light is flashing. But with little difficulty, the car pulled itself down. So now I'm going to run the vehicle in the same situation, front left, rear right wheel without traction, but this time we're going to turn vehicle dynamics control off. Now, vehicle dynamics control, according to Subaru, in the event of wheel spin and or skidding on a slippery road, vehicle dynamics control adjusts the engine's output and the wheel's respective braking forces to help maintain traction and directional control. And we have a button to turn it off in this Outback. Put it off the brake, a little bit of throttle. Little difficulty as well, so very little difference between traction control on and off. Okay, final test. This one's going to be a real humdinger. What we're going to do is we're going to put 3 wheels onto rollers. So that means we have 3 wheels without traction, only 1 wheel with traction. We're going to try it in standard mode, everything on. Then we're going to try it with traction control off. And then we're going to try it with X mode on, which is how Subaru recommends you use the vehicle if you're in a slippery, low traction situation such as mud or like deep snow. Okay, 3-wheeled ramp test part 1. Both front wheels are on the rollers, as is the rear left. Only the rear right has traction. This first test is going to be everything as normal, so traction control on, X mode off. This is idling, just a little bit of throttle. I'm going to do as smooth a throttle application as I can. And it pulled it off pretty easy. Next test is VDC disabled, like that. I'm in neutral. Let's go to drive. A little bit of throttle application. And we're down. Okay, last test here is going to be traction control off, X mode on. X mode is, of course, the off-road, go anywhere mode. So there's idle, just a little bit of throttle. And we're down. Well, there you have it, our traction test on the new 2018 Subaru Outback. Now, why did it perform better out here than on Gold Mine Hill if we were simulating similar things? Well, the first reason is that out here, we've got this grippy asphalt, right? So the wheels that do have traction have a lot of traction on this grippy road surface. Out in Gold Mine Hill, it's just kind of loose sand. The most important factor to consider is we're going from a relatively flat surface to another relatively flat surface. So there's no hills or big increases in angle to deal with, whereas Goldmine Hill is very steep and it really does push the limits of torque and climbing capability. On this test, it's just a strict test of the traction control system on the road. So this test indicates that this car probably would do really well in like a snowy situation or an icy situation, but maybe not so well on a steep hill like Goldmine Hill. And hey guys, this is our first time using these all-wheel drive slip rollers. If you have any constructive advice on how to make this test better or what you think went on with the all-wheel drive system, please let us know in the comments below, because we really want to use and improve this test for future all-wheel drive vehicles. I'm actually really impressed. The all-wheel drive system coped really well today. I think X mode helped just a little bit compared to the other modes. I tried to keep throttle inputs pretty linear across the test, but I hope you found this useful. As always, I'm Tommy with the Fast Lane Car. We'll see you guys next time right here for more Subaru Outback long-term reviews.